Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Woke Blokes podcast. Ryan Hassan from the Centre for Healing here, joined as always by Nick Sutherland, the Sultan of Steel, the miracle of Macrae, Myndfit's own, the Buddha of Mr. Buddha Nature himself, Mr. Under the Bodhi Tree, Nick Sutherland.
You're getting ridiculous. You really like trying to test my ego, don't you? You're really like trying to let's see if we can feed the ego. Let's see if it comes up, but it's not rising to the occasion.
I know it's because yours isn't desiring to be fed that makes me want to feed it more. So I have friends, and I know they gobble that shit up, and so I don't give them anything.
Yeah, we're cooking in the kitchen this morning. We really need to do a Woke Blokes cooking in the kitchen.
I know. I turned on. Nick joined the meeting room in Zoom, and he was in the kitchen, getting stuff done, and he looked like Ian Hewitson had lost a heap of weight, grown a goatee.
And we're just putting a sprinkle of fucks in there and a double of stillness over there, and just baking up some delights.
And then, how are you, buddy? I'm great. I'm really good, actually. I'm feeling nice. I'm feeling peaceful yet energetic. I feel in flow a little bit. Actually, it's quite nice.
Yum.
Yeah, yummy.
I'm flummoxed.
You're flummoxed. At what?
I am flummoxed. How humanity has lasted this long.
Have you seen or witnessed something that has brought this flummoxed feeling on?
Well, my tendency is to observe and just without judgment, but just sitting in it. And what I'm observing more and more is just how deeply irrational mankind is. And we're going to talk about some Buddhist terms today and philosophies and whatnot. And it's hilarious. It's people like we've spoken about the ego a lot. The ego doesn't like things that are different to it. And so as soon as the ego sees something that's different, it goes, I don't like you. I'm afraid of you. Because you're different, so now I'm in fear. I'm going to defend myself. The best form of defense is to attack, and I'm going to attack. And so everyone's walking around on guard, and everyone's walking around, in this separateness and in this disconnected. I don't like you. I'm afraid of you. That's absolute language. So I'll reframe that. Not everyone is walking around, but there is a theme where a lot of people walk around in this state, and they're just that, fight, flight, hypersensitive, hyper aware, and it's like, I don't like that. Oh, trigger, and we've had many world wars and. We treat each other so poorly. If you sit back and just look at things in the news, it's like, I don't know how we're still here, honestly.
Yeah, well, what book did I read a while ago? I was talking about just in the 20th century, how many
Dr. Seuss.
How many? No. I do love the Cat in the Hat though. Tommy was watching a bit of Cat in the Hat, and we got some of the books, and I read him the book. He got a new one a few weeks ago, and it's brilliant. The Cat in the Hat book. It is just fantastic. It's so fun to read. There's such a good energy behind it. But yeah, a book a while ago. It might have even been Eckhart Tolle, Power Now, but he speaks about just in the 20th century, how many human beings killed other human beings, and it's just wild. Like, forget natural disasters and famines and that kind of thing. We just love killing each other, really.
And other things. I was chatting with someone the other day about when we head up to Queensland. We've got 40 acres. I wouldn't mind getting a rifle just to ping some cans and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, you're gonna shoot some roos or anything?" And I'm like, "It's just." No, it's cheating. It's like humans think we're the apex.
Yeah, but you got a gun though. You got a gun.
Oh,
you got to use it.
Yeah,
you can't just shoot cans. Got to kill something with a heartbeat.
Yeah. and then hang it on my wall.
Make a rug, put its head on the wall.
Stand on it every
So
day
then
just to show it who's boss.
when the other fellas come in, you can be like, yeah, I shot that one myself, and they'll go, good on you, mate.
Yeah. And now try and do it without a gun. See if you're the apex predator. Go and try and kill a kangaroo with your bare hands, or try and kill a lion with your bare hands and see who's boss.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, mate. Those kangaroos, they balance on their tail and they kick with those back legs. They take your kneecaps out straight away. Or your dick. I reckon you get a big one, they balance.
That's where kicking the dick came from.
Yeah. Skippy had enough one day and just kicked that kid in that show in the dick. But imagine that. Those big bang right in the cock. You'd be in all sorts. But like from a strength, like power to weight ratio, yeah, we're not that strong, you know.
And we're so flimsy. Like, imagine a kangaroo raking your stomach, your guts is going to spill out everywhere. Like, we are very delicate creatures when it's all said and done. Like, other animals have thicker skin and all that stuff. So we're ridiculous. How it's the ego illusion of grandeur. We are the best. We are the most important. We're the most powerful, and we're really not. So. Yeah, so it's just been fun, just laughing at how irrational mankind is.
Yeah, it's like I like what you said, like about it's very evident if you have the eyes to see about everybody walking around kind of with their defenses up. And it's like I came, obviously from a world of drug addiction, being around other drug addicts, being one myself and going in that scene. And it's really interesting because that thing is really highlighted in that community, but it's actually kind of more of an authentic expression in that community. Yeah. It's like you can go, if someone's, a thief or always on the lookout, on defensive or hates someone, it's like they'll just say it and they'll be really, open about it. And so when I came out of that world and now doing the work that I do, I can see everybody is like that. But most people go around and, they'll see someone to their face. They're like, oh, how Nick, it's so good to see you. You look so good. Then they turn their back and go, I fucking hate that cunt. It's like, it's more inauthentic. You know what I mean? But everybody's doing that to an extent. Not to say there was very, very unhealthy expressions of it in the drug addiction community. But, I remember I read Gabor Mate, one of his books, and because he used to work with addicts as a GP in the downtown of Vancouver. And he had one addict come in one day and Gabor went to like get something from the other room, a prescription pad or whatever it was, and he came back and the patient left and his phone was gone. And he's like, he wouldn't have just stolen that phone, would he? And then he came back in like the next day or whatever it was for another appointment. He goes, did you steal my phone yesterday? He goes, yeah, doc. Yeah, I'm a drug addict. What can I say? And he goes, and Gabor said, there was something really just reassuring and authentic about that, even though he took my phone. It's like, yeah, I'm a drug addict. I took your phone.
It's my nature. This is how I roll. Yeah, I'm deeply attracted to authenticity. This is interesting. I had a client yesterday. He'll know who he is. He'll be listening to this. And he said something wonderful that for him, why Myndfit's working so well for him is because his words was because Nick, you're the real deal. And he said when he first turned up, he said his mind operates in a way that protects him. And it's like, oh, I'm not too sure. I'm sort of dipping my toe. I'm half in, half out. But then, he said, listen to the podcast, and after doing the sessions we've done, he got to experience that. I walk and talk this and live and breathe it, and it was no one had really reflected that to me before, but that is something that early on I did focus on. It was really important to me to turn up and not connect with them on an intellectual, this is how smart I am, or this is how much I know, or this is how wisdomous, I am. But it's just that connecting on a deeper level. Wisdomous, yes. It's a bit of a paradox.
It is, isn't it?
It's fun, but yeah, and so because if I'm practicing equanimity and I'm practicing cultivating stillness within me, that's going to reach someone's suffering, or dukkha, which we'll talk about later. And that they're going to sit there and go, this person has done the work. They are further down the path than me, so they are worth following, I suppose. If you want to look at it in those terms.
Yeah, I think, it's something that we teach. We're currently recording a program for our embodied processing community. And embodied, that's kind of one of the words of the modality. But we teach all the stuff that we're teaching. We keep I find myself reiterating it over and over again. It's like, we've got to take ourselves to these places before we want to take someone else. We need to really, work through these things. And it's like, we've got to, otherwise I'm trying to take someone through a terrain that I'm not familiar with. I've brought this up probably a bunch of times on the podcast, but when the mother brought the child to see Gandhi because the kid was eating too much chocolate and getting a bit chubby, and said, Gandhi, they waited hours in line to see him, and they said, "You tell him to stop eating sugar." And Gandhi says, "No, I can't do that. Come back 1 month." And so he goes, "Oh, that was a waste of time." So they waited a whole month, got back in line again, hours and hours, walked up to Gandhi. Gandhi saw the kid and goes, "Stop eating sugar." And the mother's like, "Why didn't you tell him that a month ago?" He goes, "Because I was still eating sugar and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't eating sugar before I gave advice on it." And so I think that you spoke about, the irrationality and humankind before. And I think there's so much people who have those defenses up and have a mask on, and they're not really walking their talk in life to an extent. And so I think some people, when they say they go to work with you, work with me, work with someone else, they're always kind of half in trying to work out, is this person legit or are they, full of crap? And so
subconscious, there's a lot happening below the surface. If someone walks into a discovery session with me, yes, they're intellectually gathering information and processing, but deeper down, there's some work. They're feeling it out too. And if they don't find what they're looking for, then it's not going to be attractive to them. So they're not going to want to come back.
Yeah, of course. And there's part of them that's always like, is this going to be safe for me to open up to this person? Because oftentimes people, if they're coming in for this kind of work, especially when they haven't done it before, it's being able to talk about things and go places that they may have feared to tread in the past. But if they know they're across from someone who's been there in their own psyche and their own life, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it can be done. And Nick, this guy uses words like wisdomous, so he can't be that. I put him up on a pedestal too much.
Thank you very much. It's when a client says, they'll say something and they go, "Oh, I just realised I've never told anyone that." The amount of times people come in and I just, my heart breaks for them, but it also goes out to them and it feels wonderful as well, because there is that rapport, and that's one of the, that's probably the key components to helping someone out of whatever it is that they're in, is that rapport. That trust has to be there. It's implicit. And you can't fake it. You can't manufacture that shit.
No, it's got to be real. It's got to be authentic. Nick, tell us about dukkha. When you mentioned it, my mind went straight to the Turkish spice rub, and I started to salivate at the mouth. I'm not sure that we're going to spend a whole podcast talking about a spice rub.
Well,
or are we?
Yeah, maybe. Sprinkle it on some ribs and some salad, and dukkha. So dukkha and sukha is there's. You can use numerous words, but essentially it's content and discontent, or satisfied and dissatisfied, or happy or sad, or they contrast with one another.
Which one's which?
And dukkha is not feeling wonderful about things, and sukha is this is everything is okay.
I thought it might be the other way around. So I was like, I didn't get my dukkha, now I'm going to have a sukha.
You've been hanging on to that for about 5 minutes, haven't you?
Itching. I was itching to get that out.
I'm laughing at you, not with you.
I'm laughing at me too.
So yeah, go back to so essentially, think think of us with these egos and these insatiable black holes. If you give a person $1 million, eventually they want $2 million. They're not going to be satisfied, and it's our nature. This is why I can't believe we're still in existence, because our nature is to be, well, our surface level nature is to be destructive. Our inherent intrinsic nature is to be that Buddha nature that you were speaking of earlier. It's that loving compassion, loving kindness. If you see a dog or a child or another person, suffering, your natural response will be, "Oh, are you okay? Can I help?" So that's when we're not in our ego. That's when we're in our hearts. That's available to us then. So, but most people are walking around in their egos and or coming in and out of that ego state and living in fear of not having enough, not being enough. The whole this pandemic of not enoughness coursing through society, and everyone's living in this fear, and that's normal. That's just how we sort of operate and exist. But when we start to come into contact with something like Buddhism, and we can understand that, all right, well, that's normal, if you want to term it that way, but there is another path available to us. And on that path, there will still be suffering, there will still be dukkha, but we can learn to, that client yesterday that said, the real deal. He said what he's noticing is he's naturally finding himself in that space between stimulus and response now. He's more observing. He's got a spaciousness about him, and he said he observed himself observing in that space, and he's like, oh, I'm surprised at how naturally that's coming to me now. But so he's cultivated that ability within himself, and this is what we need to do. We need to cultivate compassion, cultivate empathy, cultivate an equanimous mind. He's talking about in Buddhism they call it a liberated mind. If a mind is bound up, it's in a literal sense, it's a mind in bondage. It's all tied up in knots. We call it spaghetti brain. But when we let go of our desires and wanting everything to be different, then all of a sudden we have that liberated mind, and we are free to observe. We are free to respond mindfully, compassionately, empathetically. We're not constantly triggered, and all of a sudden our relationships flourish, whether it's personal or professional, and we can do a better job as society of creating a psychologically safe society, where in our intimate relationships, if we're getting triggered and we're in fear and we're reactive, we're not going to create a safe space for people. It's not going to be psychologically safe. So people aren't going to want to naturally come out and share their intimate memories or experiences with you. So yeah, it's just a fun one to play around with. Am I in dukkha or sukha?
I think I'm in sukha today.
You sound like it.
I'm sounding sukha. It's kind of the giving up the idea that we're going to get someplace, I suppose, mentally, emotionally, or in the world. You spoke about if I get $1 million, it won't be long before I want $2 million. And it's like we normalize everything. Our ego normalizes everything really quickly because it's automatically looking to the future and wants more. I was speaking to someone just the other day, and it was really interesting. And they were telling me of their experience last week. They used to experience, anxiety between a 7 and 10 out of 10 every single day for years. And now they don't really experience anxiety at all for the last few years. And he said they were at a family thing, and a situation happened, and he goes, I noticed my anxiety went to like a 3 out of 10. And he's like, it was so uncomfortable. Like, it was, compared to what it used to be, it was nothing, but like, it's like I've now before we've normalized 7 to 10. right? But now I've normalized kind of this 0 or 1. And so a 3 or a 4 out of 10, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. I want it to go away. And it's like that problem never gets, if you're stuck in that ego, like the problem never gets solved. The issue never goes away, because all I'll do is normalize the next thing that happens. And so it's like completely giving up and sort of taking our hands off the wheel, so to speak. And it's, I mean, this is the whole deal with presence. It's saying, well, things shouldn't be any different than what they are. If they were meant to be different, then they would be. And so I'm not all of a sudden trying to get somewhere else, because a lot of people on this path as well, they have this idea they're going to be fully healed or fully fixed, and sunshine's going to come out their asshole, and they're never going to have a problem for the rest of their life. And it's just not true. It's like this realization we have to come to, that this is, we're in a human body and a human mind and on this place called Earth, and there's going to be issues and challenges the whole way along. Am I going to be okay with that, or am I going to struggle and fight the whole time? Because that's what most people do. And it's like sometimes you'll find people in older age, they finally give up. They finally go, so we did a whole podcast on the 5 regrets of the dying, right? And one of these, I just wish I had let myself be happier. It's like, they know that. I wish I'd let myself be happier, not, I wish the world had have made me happier, or I've done happier things. I wish I would just let myself be happy with whatever happened. And like, I love seeing people who can come to that realization well before they're 75, 80 years of age.
Have a think about when you were the saddest you've ever felt. If someone came along and handed you $1 million, would you have felt genuinely happy? And the answer is no, because you would have got I can go and spend money on things externally to make me feel better or whatever, but it's not coming from within you. And it's so normal again for people when I ask a client, how are you, and they say, yeah, good. I'm like, are you, after they've done push-ups, I'm like, are you good because everything's gone your way and you've got what you wanted and your bank balance is full and people are treating you well? There's been a lack of challenges or obstacles, or are you good because you're turning up and committing to doing the work every day, and there's challenges and whatever, but you're still here. You're still here. You're still present. And eventually they start to understand the difference between external and internal, or outsourced and inherent, and they stop chasing everything out there, and they slowly turn inwardly and it's all in here. There it is.
I love, but Michael Singer had a saying in one of his talks, and he goes, I love how he asks, like, oh, how you been doing today? And they go, yeah, good, or not bad, or yeah, getting through. He goes, if they were honest, they'd say, I'm trying to manipulate the world to be it the way I want it to be in order for me to feel okay inside. Because that would be honest.
I heard Carl Barron, the comedian, the other day, and he said Australians are so funny. He's like, because they're so secretive. How are you? Not bad. Where are you going? Not far. How was it? Like, they tell you everything that they're not anything that you actually are. And it was very, very
cryptic.
Yeah. It's just like, why can't you just be honest and just say how you really are? So I said before about committing every day. I had a chat with a client the other day about how ridiculous this whole concept of not marriage, but the till death do us part of marriage. I'm committing to a whole life. I'm committing to being with you till the end of the life, and it's too big. You can't do that. So I'm saying just bring it back to a little bit smaller. Just commit to turning up every day. That's it. All I can commit to is turning up every day and giving my absolute best. And some days I'll knock it out of the park, and some days I'll fuck it up entirely. But I'm committing to doing the work every day on myself. This is my primary job. And then I'm going to go to my occupation and to my relationships and to my other things. But this is what I'm committing to every day. And if you can simplify it and just look at it that small, then it seems a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And also understand that whether you have a day where you feel like you've kicked goals all day and you've done great, or there's other days that you feel like you fucked up, those days have no bearing on your worth as a human being. We just get up the next day and we do our best.
Yeah, but they're not good or bad. And I don't wish I had a magic wand because that'd be very egotistical of me. But I love it when people start shifting out of that
You'd
black
seem
and white binary thing.
even more wisdomous if you had a wand, maybe a wizard's hat as well.
Let me get a staff. None shall pass.
Nick's wisdomous wand.
It should be, and this too shall pass.
Your stoic wand.
Yeah, when people get out of that, oh, I fucked up. I had a bad day or a good day. It's just that when they get into that neutral space, I had a day, and when they can transcend the polarity, and it's just, I'm not a good or a bad parent. I just am. I'm a parent who's turning up every day and doing their best with what I've got. And my relationship's not good or bad. My relationship is just two people trying to figure themselves out and figure each other out, and you know, in that we can sort of start to look after each other a little bit better. But if we can only do that when we remain in, so everything's in constant flux. Apparently, the law of nature, everything's impermanent, everything's changing. I wish this was the same way forever. Okay, and the key to it is to stay in a state where you can respond, where you're in this dynamic state where you can respond to the dynamic shifts of everything, and it's not that shifted. Oh no, it's bad. Oh, it's fucked. Or it's all gone to shit. It's just that shifted. Oh, it's just different. And she's feeling that way. Oh, that's just different. Or he looks like that. Oh, he's just different. And it's when you're in that space and when you can create that, it's just that responsiveness, that dynamic response. It's like, you know, a shock absorber on a car, the suspension on a car. It's just like up and down, depending on what the terrain's like. And I just thought of that then. I don't know if that's appropriate.
No, that works. That works.
Yeah. So yeah. It's I'm not going. Oh, it, you know, if you compress because the terrain's higher, and you can't go. Oh, I hate being this way. It just is. It's just part of the journey. So
yeah,
when we can let go and let all the rises and the falls happen, let the ebb and the flow happen, we can enjoy the ride.
Yeah. That's the key. I want to enjoy it. We're here. I've been reading a little bit about the how the structure of our personalities formed, and this book's talking about religion as well at the minute. And it's so interesting. It's saying like most religions, it's like, well, where we came from before we were born was beautiful. Where we're going afterwards is beautiful, but we're suffering while we're here. And it's like, why? Why is it going to be like that? What if this is the best place to be? Who knows what's happening before or after, if anything? But what if this was the best place and we're spending the time suffering most of the time, you know, judging ourselves and judging others? What you said before about what if it's the saddest you've ever been and someone brought you $1 million? It's like that saying, you know, there's people who are striving and for money and material possessions, and it's like, I'd rather be crying in a Ferrari. It's like, what a stupid saying. Like, what a terrible saying. It's like, no.
I nearly throw up in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that would cause a visceral reaction. It's like, no, why would you want that? You thought the Ferrari was going to bring happiness. So it's like the thing you wanted was happiness, not really the Ferrari. We want things because of the feeling we perceive they will give us. But the truth is, if we cut out the middleman and say, hey, I want to be peaceful, I want to be happy, I want to be content, then I don't need all of these things to conditionally make that happen. You used the word desire. I heard kind of a phrase the other day, because obviously we think about the Buddhist wheel of samsara, this cycle of craving and aversion. And so what is craving? Craving is a desire, right? And so, you know, this person I was reading said there's nothing wrong with desire, so to speak. There's nothing wrong with Dick's coordinating people there. There's nothing wrong with desire, because desire is our juice. It can give us energy, inspiration. However, whatever we are desiring should not be dependent on our happiness. So it's like, I desire, let's say, I want to play golf today and I desire to shoot under 80. But whether I do that or not has no impact on my happiness.
You're talking about goals and expectations now. So that's the difference. The difference between a goal and an expectation is the attachment. So and the source of all dukkha or suffering is that attachment, the desire, the craving, the wanting. I need this to happen, and if it doesn't happen, then it's a fuck day or I'm a terrible person. But we can set a goal to go and shoot 80 at golf today, but the reality is so much is out of our control. How realistic is it to how many people, if you lined 100 people up and they all went, right, we're going to go shoot 80 today, how many of them would shoot 80 on the number?
That's
hardly
right.
any of them because it's all out of the control. So, as you said before, hands off the steering or surrender. Oh, it'd be wonderful if I can shoot 80, and that's the plan. That's the goal. I say to clients, I agree with you on this level, but I disagree with the attachment involved. I agree that it would be more ideal for the kids to listen to you, or for you to shoot 80 at golf, or for the world to revolve around you. Yes, that'd be lovely, but I disagree with the attachment that must happen. You need that in order to be content within yourself.
So you call that a goal. So your terminology, you would say, well, a desire implies an attachment.
I would, yes.
Okay. Because then it's like, okay, well, I'll just use that terminology. So let's say goal. And so obviously the goal fund's not that, you wouldn't think it's that much of a big deal.
Or hope. I can hope that the world evolves into a society where we start looking after each other. That can be a hope.
Yeah.
Hope is a double-edged sword. Everything's on that spectrum. As soon as you go past a certain point, then that hope turns into the hangman's noose, and then we're going to turn into suffering, because that's when it moves past that critical point. That's where an attachment forms. And so I hope for the world to look after each other. Oh, it's a beautiful thing to wish for. But as soon as it doesn't happen and you start being affected, then that tells you immediately that there's been this attachment formed underneath it.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of people, we can work with the golf thing or whatever it is, but then those bigger ones are a bit harder. You spoke about the marriage, like till death do us part. And it's like, well, I hope, or I have a goal or a desire that I'm going to be with my partner until the end. But then it's like, well, is that conditional on my happiness? Because then I'm going to have some sort of attachment there, and that will play out in a relationship, in my estimation, even whether or not a separation does or does not happen.
But it's so hard to people are so men cannot stand in the same river twice. Two people aren't turning up to the same relationship or marriage every day, so it's constantly shifting. People fall in and out of love. So because we're changing, so one person may be stagnant and the other person may be growing. When they met, they may have been sort of on the same level roughly, and there's a mutual attraction and connection and similarities. Yep. And person A was content in an unhealthy way in their comfort zone, and person B was like, oh, I've got some work to do. And they went on this journey. All of a sudden, they're two entirely different people, and the dynamic of that relationship is changed entirely. It's madness to think that should last forever, unless they're both in a place where they can fully accept and allow each person to be on that path.
Well, that in my definition is love, like complete acceptance of another human being without wanting to change them. I think that's the definition of love. You can.
How many people can love in that way compared to most people are loving in an ego sense? That client this is really going to be an ego test for this client from yesterday. So if you're listening, mate, just try and observe yourself. He took his ex out for a birthday dinner because he's sitting in this observation, and he realised he had the kids and she didn't, that on her birthday, and so he took her out for dinner that night, and I said, how wonderful. That's an act of compassion. That's an act of, when you're okay, you're able to give, and his ego wasn't in place at that time to such a degree that, you just imagine he wasn't there. It was she was there and the kids were there. It was all about them, and just giving to them and being mindful and considerate of them. And I was like, what a beautiful place to be. That's all.
Oh, that's all. So I thought you prefaced that by saying but my client was in an ego state, and so you're telling me about this non-ego state, and I was waiting for but this happened, and it didn't come.
No. I said he wasn't in his ego at that state.
Yeah. So it's like you said, how many people?
Like,
it is beautiful. It is.
I'm going to give. This is what we can give. We don't need money or things or stuff. We can. When you're okay, when you're not perceiving all these threats around you, when you're not in this sense of deficiency, when you're in this sense of abundance, I have plenty. I've got so much to give. I've got so much to offer. I've got some time to offer, and I'm going to offer it to you and to take you out to dinner so you can connect with your kids. Like, that's I expect the world to be like that. Oh, damn, there's that attachment.
Yeah. It's like a little exercise you can do is like, imagine it. You don't have to say it unless to your partner, if it's your husband, wife, partner, whatever. Just say it internally. Just imagine speaking to them and say, I'd rather be happy than be with you. And then notice the reaction that comes up. Now, for most people, they feel selfish in saying that, which means that we're always projecting onto other people our own sets of beliefs and thoughts and everything, which means that's kind of what we expect the other way, which means that we would rather our partner be with us than them be happy. And so two people get together, and this is most relationships in my estimation, not all, but most. So there's two people who would rather stay together than be happy, and they're both miserable a fair amount of the time, but long live love, right? And so there's just so much attachment and strange energy in relationships, I find, that people are, they'll fall in. We've spoken about this in the podcast before, but they'll fall in love with someone because, like, look at this being, look at the way they act. Then all of a sudden, those same behaviors a year down the road, they're like, oh, can you stop doing that and embarrassing me in front of people? It's like, for God's sake, if you're trying to change somebody, you don't love them. That's my estimation.
Yeah. I'm trying to change Emma because she keeps leaving the drawers in the kitchen open. Does that mean I don't love her?
Well, I don't think you're trying to change her. You're trying to have, what are you trying to have her shut the drawers?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that means you don't love her.
Sorry, honey. I'll just keep smashing my shins into the drawer and just, I'm so fortunate.
Have you smashed your shin into the drawer?
Yes.
All right. Look, this is quite an emotional reaction coming up from you, Nick.
It is, but it's a constant. It's just the drawers. You've gone to. It's like you've gone to all the effort of opening it, and then you've closed it, but only halfway. It's like you've run out of energy halfway. It really took it out of me opening that drawer. I can't quite get there.
Maybe she's too focused on preparing like a lovely meal for you or getting you a drink or something, and that's her number one.
I've got some work to do around that. Yeah. This is the thing though, and it's so inconsequential. It's so, in the grand scheme of everything, a drawer being left open doesn't matter one iota.
It jumps out to me. You told us a story on the podcast a little while ago, and it's still stuck with me because I think it's a really good one. That you had a client, and I think it was the kids leaving towels on the floor. And it's like, how, in the grand scheme of things, when it's all said and done, how important is that going to be? Because it was causing so much anger and frustration and suffering. How important is that? And I think I remember you saying that he kind of broke down at that point, which is beautiful because we realized that, my God, I've been yelling at my kids, but like, who fucking cares about some towels on the ground? Or at a giant rock spinning through space in the middle of nowhere, not sure why we're here, and I'm freaking out about towels? Same with you with the drawers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I understand it, and I'm aware of it. But what I'm also aware of is our capacity to self-manage and self-regulate and do the work. There are factors that affect that, and I've been very tired lately, and I've felt like I'm carrying a lot and doing a lot, and so I'm probably, well, not probably, I'm not in my optimal state in terms of that.
And it has such an effect, like an incredible
Totally.
effect. Today I'm in Sukkah, I feel great, and I feel like Mel could do anything and I'll be perfectly okay with it. But if you get me a little bit overwhelmed with work, not sleeping very good a couple of nights, I'm an asshole. I'm very aware of it, but I become an asshole at times. So it's true. We are affected by these things, and that's why managing and looking after ourselves is so important, because we don't want to be minimized in our own capacity to be loving of other people and ourselves.
Yeah, but we can only give away that which we possess. So if I'm not in possession of a calm, unattached mind, if I'm not at peace within myself, I can't be at peace within my relationships. So that's, once again, we're going to ebb and flow. The suspension. Some days I'm going to be very peaceful, like you are, and then other days I'm going to be a bit unsettled or whatever. And the key to it is to not have a desire to always be at peace, because that's an attachment, and that's going to create the opposite, which is what you don't want. So when I notice I'm getting triggered by a drawer being opened, I laugh at myself. Eventually, I have this, but then I laugh at myself and how irrational I'm being, and I'm like, "Come on, buddy, it's just a drawer, and does it really matter?" But in that moment, I'm doing my best, and I'm committing to turning up and doing my best, and so I don't beat myself up or think I'm a terrible person or whatever. All right, it just is.
Exactly. My worth when I'm an asshole is the exact same as what it is now. And people get freaked out when I'm like, I'm no better a person when I was a drug addict dealing drugs and doing all this illegal. They're like, what do you mean you're a better person? I'm like, I'm no better. It's hang on, who's joining us?
Who is joining us?
Who is Melissa joining us from upstairs? I'm on her account.
What if it's Buddha? What if it's hi?
We're in the middle of a podcast.
I'm so sorry. I was about to record something.
Do you have anything profound to tell us, babe?
No, I don't.
Are you God? Are you an extraterrestrial being that's come to?
Buddha has manifested as my beautiful partner, Melissa.
Oh,
wow. Wow, she's got a halo.
I know the light shining behind her head.
Oh,
hi, Mel.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I'm all the better for seeing you. Thanks for dropping in.
No worries. You guys having a good chat today?
This is wonderful. Let's use this because it's here and available. If Ryan and I had an expectation that no one should invade this podcast, and we had these really tight parameters of it's going to be the perfect podcast if it's only us talking about everything we think and know, and then Mel sort of miraculously pops in, that would trigger someone. They'd be like, "Oh, fucking hell, I can't believe you. What are you doing? You should have known I was in the podcast." And they can get all hectic and distorted. But it's wonderful.
I had a beautiful welcome in, so thank you very much.
I think it's added to the podcast. I think this has made it the perfect podcast. It's a surprise guest.
What if it's our first surprise guest?
Yeah.
This is great. Ryan just said his worth is equal when he's an asshole or when he's loving. Is that true? Do you love him equally when he's an asshole and when he's in his heart?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's taken a few years for him to kind of, and for me to go, okay, this is a part of him and I accept that as well. And I just need to adjust my expectation or perception of who I think he should be. And I just see it within myself and whatever aspect he's showing. So
you're surrendering your attachments to what would be more ideal for me, it would be more convenient for me if Ryan was just saying nice things right now.
That's right. And when he's not like that, I've learnt to kind of allow him to express those things so he feels safer to express all of himself, including the anger. And like sometimes I give him shit a little bit, like if he's getting angry, I'm like, let me go, baby, getting angry. Like,
and I'm like, I know.
yeah.
No, but Melissa's greatly helped me in this respect. You know, even a couple of years ago, I would go through some depressive periods, and she would tell me, like, you know, I love you just as much now when you're depressed as when you're all excited and happy, because that was my, you know, wheel of addiction. It wasn't so much drugs and everything, but it was just to be excited and up and about and great all the time, which is not healthy.
And I think the part of not walking on eggshells in a relationship is, yeah, when he was like depressed, I cracked it sometimes. I was like, I'm really resentful. And he reminds me of that. But like, I think having a relationship where you can, no matter how the other person is, you still feel safe to express yourself and be yourself is just so freeing. So that's been a really cool aspect of our relationship, I think.
Well, we were talking before, Mel, about a liberated mind, and you know, a relationship is a co-creation of what two people are bringing, and you're bringing all your good bits, but you're bringing all your neurosis and all your not so ideal bits as well, and all of that needs to be included in the recipe, doesn't it?
Not so ideal bits. What are those bits?
Creating new vocabulary in this podcast.
Oh, we're very wisdomous in this podcast.
Nick used the term wisdomous earlier, so.
But Ryan and I have had chats about like our past relationships and how you pretend everything's okay and you try to reject your negative aspects and you notice theirs, but you don't say anything. And then you get to the point where you don't even like have a proper conversation or know each other anymore. Like everything is swept under the rug and it's not really a relationship. It's like a surface level friendship almost, where you're pretending everything's okay. So that's why you have to include all the negative kind of aspects and embrace them, and then you can and you have to go with non-attachment, where like it could end tomorrow. How the fuck do I make the most out of today with them?
I think Mel's been watching our show, Nick, because she's come in with the exact theme that we've been talking about. You've been listening from upstairs.
She's bugged your office and she's gone, I want to get in on this. I'm gonna.
Yeah, whoops! I went to record something.
It's so challenging. I love what you're saying, Mel, but it's so well, it's impossible when the egos are still active and the egos are trying to conflict resolution and problem solve. The ego can't solve problems. The ego can't reduce conflict, but people are still trying to argue and come out of this heightened state while being in those attachments still. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, and the ego only knows everything that you've learned up until this point. Like you're not going to learn anything new. It's just regurgitated protection or information. So
when you speak, you're only repeating what you already know.
No, unless you're channeling intuition, like then you'll get
that's me in the office most days. I've got no idea what the hell I'm saying half the time.
Speaking in tongues, saying wisdomous.
I love it when you write something or you say something and you're like, where the hell did that come from? That was really
good.
Well, that's what a lot of, like whether it's comedians, maybe writers, artists, they have trouble, I think, taking credit for their work because these new ideas seem to come from out here somewhere. They don't seem self-generated. So it's really interesting in that aspect.
Well, the ego's not present to try and claim it. It's like, yes, this is me. I did this. Look how amazing I am. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Back in your hole, little buddy.
But you can't just be like, I'm just going to reject the ego because it's there. It's actually just like a relationship. Just like if your partner is an aspect of your ego, it's like you have to learn from it through loving it and making it feel safe. If you just keep like pushing your partner in the room when they're trying to say something, it's like the relationship's not gonna go anywhere. So
Got to embrace it
More than
all.
that, but yeah. Yeah.
Right, work with the nature instead of against it.
Embrace the not so ideal bits. That's Nick's relationship program.
Okay.
You can see it.
I think that's me done. I think I might bow on out.
Oh, what a cameo!
And the award goes to. Well, thanks for dropping in. Thanks for dropping in.
No worries. You guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I was going to say earlier, I do a lot of work with couples, but they're doing programs individually, and when they start doing the work within themselves, they're strengthening their own foundations, and in doing so, they start strengthening their relationships foundations. And so when adversity naturally comes along and rocks the foundation, it's able to withstand a whole lot more. It's more resilient. It's not more rigid. We're not trying to create a rigidity, but it's more resilient in that's not so bad. Oh, that's not so problematic. Oh, we can actually deal with this. We can come together and work through this as a we, not as a me and a you.
Yeah, I think that's what we would do as well at the center is work with people individually. And I think the word used there, having the foundation strong, is so important, because when you do work with people, and what you'll find is people will start to own this is part of the work, own their emotional reactions in a relationship, take ownership for them and start to work through them. Maybe if there's an overreaction, like, where did that come from? How can I think about that differently in future? And so when both people are then coming together in relationship from a place of owning their own emotional reactions, then I think great growth can happen in a relationship from that point. And when I say you got to own everything within yourself, that doesn't mean like, I'm going to own everything and my partner can just do whatever they want. No, like, part of owning that is also owning the fact that maybe you don't have very strong boundaries and you tolerate things that you shouldn't. And so you then have to set a boundary from a place of no ego, just around self-respect and self-worth.
A lot of the time people aren't present, and so they're not in control. And anxiety by its nature is very controlling. So most people misbelieve that they are in control, but true control is actually freedom, and that comes from that liberated mind. And that it takes great strength to let go of what we think should be happening or what I'd prefer to be happening. It takes a lot of strength to just go, okay, well, this is just occurring, and this is perfect. It's exactly as it's meant to be, and so be it. And it's going to pass. It's only temporary. And being in that space, when you're in a position where you can see yourself see your relationship as a place to give instead of a place to take, then both people can start contributing to the well instead of one person contributing and the other person just drinking, or both people just drinking for the well. It's going to dry up pretty quick. So we've got to go and both contributes to it, and it just gets better after that.
Yeah, I think life, part of it's really trying to be okay with the inherent uncertainty of life, and that means overcoming a lot of the software we have installed in the old noggin up here. We spoke about, the start of this conversation was about how we've killed each other and destroyed, I read the book Sapiens. I think we've destroyed about 90% of the world's animal species over the past however many thousand years. And the reason why we have become, so overly, dominant as a species, even though we aren't physical, I can't take on a lion in a fight bare hands, certainly not, is because this brain is constantly trying to predict the future. So we can work in groups and we can, get through. So we have this software that's installed based on survival. That's like, make sure the future is as certain as possible, which is like a grasp control. Yet I think part of it's trying to be okay with it being inherently uncertain, because, we're okay now. Like most of this, well, the places where we live in the planet, like we're okay. Like, I'm not fighting for my survival every day, but I'm wrestling with these things like, what's someone going to say about me? What's that other person on the side of the street? Why they're looking at me weird? Oh shit, the news is telling me that everything's fucked. It's like, being able to let go, take your hands off the wheel to an extent. And it's hard, but it's just training attention at the end of the day. just requires repetition.
Yeah, I think the unknown is a great source of stimulus that triggers the mind. The mind really likes things to be in pigeonholes and boxes and labelled and structured and organised. And it's, we're all hardwired to feel safe and secure. And the only way a lot of people think they can feel safe and secure is to rush off into the future and create this illusion of control, this illusion of
this is how it will go.
Yeah. And that's an expectation, that's an attachment, that's a desire. And when the reality of what is in contrast to the reality of what you're trying to create, then conflict. And I'm upset, and woe is me, and pity party, and everyone's just deeply insecure for some reason. It's so, I don't know. It's just there's this deep insecurity, like I'm not going to be okay.
Well, yeah, but I mean, from a collective point of view, like turn on the news, flick on social media, look at ads.
Oh,
don't
do that.
actually, yeah, don't. That's a terrible prescription. That's a terrible idea. But if you do it for a day and then stop, and you'll realize why. Everybody's like that. We're being made afraid on the news. We're being made to argue with people on social media, and all marketing is telling us we're not enough because we don't have this product or experience. There you go.
Yeah, but that's where we need to take a sense of ownership and be responsible for our happiness and
so don't watch the news. Don't go on social media. Don't look at marketing.
Steer clear, people. But just tell yourself every day, I'm okay. I will handle whatever comes along. I've got this, and start living that sense of trust instead of that sense of fear, and just feel how different each day is. It's night and day. It's very contrasting.
All right, I got to run, Nico. That was great. That was a good talk. We had a surprise guest. I think
so good.
That's what happens when you have no attachment.
I know, right?
Things happen.
Everything's available. Anything can come, and it's all okay. Oh, goose drama. All right. Well, shout out to all our listeners today, because there's a lot of really wonderful feedback. People are really. I'm constantly wonderfully surprised when I hear, listen to the podcast, and a client will get in touch. I've been listening to for a while, and they live in the most obscure places, and we started this whole thing just to hang out together and just to be idiots, and but apparently the word getting back to us is that it's actually having quite a ripple effect. So shout out to everyone who's listening.
And it's just it's such a privilege and an honor for us just to be able to talk about some of these topics. And but our intention was, yes, to hang out. But if people were going to listen, then we were hoping it was going to add value. And the feedback we're getting is that it is. And so we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. So go and get kicked in the dick by a kangaroo. Yeah.
Oh, God, imagine that. Imagine one of those big red kangaroos, one of those big ones. Whack. It'd be a thud. Just a thud. Man. Hey, how'd Ryan die? I heard he passed away. Yeah, he got kicked in the dick by a kangaroo. What's that? What was that old website, the Darwin Awards or something? People who die in really funny circumstances. Yeah, I'd end up on that.
Yeah.
All right. No fighting kangaroos. Stop watching news. Get off social media. Go and hug someone you love. Peace out, everyone.
Right. Peace out. Bye.